Guys of a Certain Age is brought to you by no one. Absolutely no one. Except these dudes walking down memory lane. Now let's head to the studio to see what they misremember next.
It's that time again. It's Guys of a Certain Age, the scariest podcast you'll listen to today. And this is Jay Reed in the studio with
Art Shirley.
And we are sans Robbie today. I said that with a French accent because it is a French word.
No, Jay, don't go wee-wee.
I go wee-wee with the run yep. Anyway.
Did I say Art Shirley already?
I think you did.
Okay.
Anyway, it's Art Shirley. It's Jay Reed. And we are in no Robbie. And Robbie is traveling today.
Traveling today to Las Vegas to go see U2. And they're in the Sphere, which I would like to go see any concert in the Sphere. It's that thing, if you've seen anything about what's happening in Las Vegas right now, it's this huge spherical shaped object on the horizon that has LED screens on it and can be animated. You'll see like an animated sun, and they made it like the Death Star one time.
Is it an amphitheater? Is it outdoors?
No, it's inside. You're all inside this thing, and so you're seeing stuff projected inside as well. But on the horizon, you'll see this thing, and it's just very, very cool.
So you saw half a Death Star sitting on the plains.
That's
or
right.
on the desert.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and this is not his first rodeo with U2, am I right?
No, I don't know how many times he's seen them, but he's seen them several times. I would like to see them. I'd still like to see them. That's the group I would like to see, but
they're not high on my bucket list, but I definitely would go given the opportunity. Robbie didn't give me the opportunity this time. He did not invite us to this. Oh, that's spooky. That's a big old eyeball.
Yeah, check that out. There's a moon.
Of course, I mean, I'm not talking about Art's eyeball. We're actually looking at pictures of the sphere.
Yeah, and I've actually seen Bono and The Edge in Memphis. They showed up when they were there filming what became Rattle and Hum, the movie Rattle and Hum.
Huh.
I got to see them walking through the lobby of the Peabody, so that was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I was in the lobby of the Peabody not long ago.
I know, and I'm sure people are going, hey, I saw Jay Reed from Guys of a Certain Age.
Probably so. I heard his voice. I heard that voice.
That's right.
Yeah, so, I'm concert-wise, I think I've missed out on some, and I realized that this year when I asked for a Jimmy Buffett ticket for Christmas, and that's no longer possible. But did see a lot of it, and although he put on a great show, he definitely is not a spring chicken.
Yeah.
And just kind of made me realize I want to see some of these folks that I like before, it's too late.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I still regret that we haven't seen the Eagles at all yet. That's our Eagles. That's one that's on my bucket list, and man, the cost of the tickets are so high now, it's kind of, prohibitive. But I hate that we didn't see them. They were in Tupelo. I wish we'd gone to see them, especially when Glenn Frey was still alive. Although I understand the show now is good. I have some friends that have seen him. But I certainly would have liked to have seen him when Glenn Frey was still around.
And see, the whole ticket thing, I don't know if it's with these older groups, if it's the same, but I know I have colleagues that have gone to see like Morgan Wallen at a stadium show or Taylor Swift, and they're paying $400 or $500 or $600 a seat.
And some of the older groups are not there, not that same price. Is that what you're saying?
I hope not, because otherwise I still won't see them.
Yeah, we saw America at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville over a year ago now, and their ticket price, I can't remember what they were, but I remember they were reasonable, and it was a great show. I mean, they put on a great show. It still sounded
and
just
like
rhyming
too.
Yeah,
so you got the experience with the show.
And I'd never been there before.
That's awesome.
So it was nice. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, that's not what we're talking about today. But first, let's get into geeks.
We have so much to say.
We do. So, Geeks of the Week, what you got?
Okay. I meant to mention this last time that we recorded, and I forgot. So some of you may have heard this news already. But in 1988, DC famously released a comic, a Batman comic book with Jason Todd, who was playing like he's a movie actor, who was the current Robin, or was the Robin at that time, and just not a very popular Robin at all. So they had a contest, a call-in contest. This was, of course, before the internet was it may have been around, but it was not as big and people just didn't have it in their homes, so people didn't have that access to it. Anyway, they had a call-in campaign, and you could vote whether or not Jason Todd survived.
Oh, wow.
He was. There's an issue that shows the Joker, beating him and with a crowbar or a lead pipe or something like that. And you could vote, and the vote was, the vote. I can't remember if it was overwhelming or not, but the vote came in, and they voted to kill him.
Kill him.
So they killed him, and years later he came back and he became the Red Hood. So Jason Todd's back in the DC, because comic book heroes, or comic book characters, very rarely die forever.
Like a soap opera.
Yeah, that's right. The part is now being played by. So anyway, DC is releasing a new edition of Batman 428, and Robin is going to survive the encounter this time. And Jim Aparo, who we've talked about before, one of my favorite DC artists of all time, and right up there with Neil Adams in terms of favorite Batman artist. Sometimes I think I'm actually prefer Jim Aparo over Neil Adams, but it's right there neck and neck. Anyway, he had already drawn an alternate version, so he had that. He's been passed away now for 15 years or so, but there was an alternate page where Jason Todd survives that he'd already drawn, because at that point they kind of had to have both pages ready in order to go with the comic. Right. The comic was a 4-issue series and called "The Death in the Family," and so here's I'm showing Jay on the screen. There's the page that Aparo had already drawn that said he's alive. So
are they incorporating that and then carrying out the story a little bit?
I think it's just kind of a one-off thing, kind of a specialty comic. I don't think it has to do with any type of current continuity or whatever.
So
or going to change anything, but it's just obviously a way to kind of repackage and resell this comic book again, and get it with that in there. So it's a they called it a faux simile as opposed to a facsimile edition, right? They comic book companies, both Marvel and DC, will sell facsimile versions of comics, and they in most cases are just a reprint of the existing comic. The only thing that changes usually is the price point, which has gone from 10 cents to now to $5 or $6. Right. And I'm sure this will be the same way. Sometimes they'll do them in an oversized version. You may see something that's actually drawn or released at closer to the size that the artist drew it in, which is usually twice as big, or they may be somewhere between that. But the facsimile comic is usually a pretty faithful reproduction of and on better paper, today's better paper, but other than that, it's usually a faithful reproduction.
So pretty much it's just showing the alternative ending.
Yeah, and it's going to be available December 12th, so just in time for Christmas giving. Hint, hint. Okay. So what you got, Jay?
I have, first, before I do my geek, I need to make a correction. We were discussing, last time it was you and I together without Robbie, we talked about books. Yeah. And one of the things we discussed was the James Bond audio books and who had done some of the voiceovers or the voice recording. And one of the ones you said was a guy from Downton Abbey who was are we still? I think
we are still recording. Okay. Is this on the...
Just a little bonus from
I think that was something. I don't even know if anybody heard that other than us, but I think that was from the website that I'm on. Yeah. I think that this is this commercial that's playing, and now we're hearing audio from it.
So maybe that's our new sponsor. We just didn't know it. They're desperately trying to sponsor us. That's the problem. So anyway.
Thanks a lot, C-Spire.
Yeah. So the man that you mentioned, the voice, you said was the guy from Downton Abbey that died in a car wreck, spoiler alert. And I said, it's so-and-so that plays Tom Evans in The Offer, because he was in Downton Abbey. Yes. And he was also a husband to the same lady, Downton or whatever, but not the same guy. So Dan Stevens was actually the one who's done
Dan Stevens Bonds. Is not in The Offer, is he?
He's not in The Offer, no. But the Downton Abbey daughter was married to Dan Stevens' character who died. Okay. Dan Stevens is the one who did the James Bond books. Yes. Later in the show, Downton Abbey, she remarries another guy, Matthew Good, who later becomes Tom Evans, I think is if the name right. In The Offer.
The head of Paramount Studios.
He's the producer, head of Paramount. Yeah, so I got my Downton Abbey husband's
He also plays, he's in The Crown, this actor. Yes. We see him a lot. Yeah. But Dan Stevens was in some of the Watergate. I was thinking, what have I seen him in recently that he's played an actual character? He plays John Dean in one of the Watergate.
Okay, and he was movies. The Beast in the live action Beauty and the Beast movie.
Yes.
And I think when I was reading about it, they said he had left Downton Abbey to become something on called The Guest, and I didn't ever watch that. I don't know.
Okay.
But he left Downton Abbey. They killed him off so he could go do another show.
Yeah, well, we hated that when he died.
Oh, yeah.
That was awful.
I liked him.
Yeah.
Mr. Crawley.
Maybe we should do a Downton Abbey episode sometime.
Oh, sure, Robbie would love that. That'll be you and me.
When Robbie is gone again. Yeah.
Well, maybe we should have a guest for that one.
Yeah.
So I'm a real geek, and this was I'm thinking I need some new segments, maybe like a travel segment, Jay's travel segment.
Okay.
So still within Geeks of the Weeks, because I have done some things. We've talked about the Batman restaurant in London.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Shrek house in Scotland.
We should point out, none of these places you've been to.
Right.
So yeah.
Things I would like, places Jay would like to go.
Yeah.
It seems like there was something else in London or in the UK. Oh, it was the play. There was a Jaws related play. This was years ago.
Oh, really?
We talked about. So we have a full London weekend prepared. None of it may be in existence by the time you get there. But with that in mind, there's another trip that y'all might be interested in taking. But there is a sort of a caveat to this trip. In order to take this trip, you must be dead. So,
I'm going to say probably not.
Not anytime soon, hopefully,
yeah,
right? But it is intriguing. And the funny thing about this is I'm a pharmacist, as many people know, and I had a pharmacy newsletter that a lot of times will have a little trivia on it. So the trivia on this last week was that it was Gene Roddenberry's birthday.
Yeah.
And that he had, so first of all, his ashes have been to space several times.
Yeah.
I guess portions of them.
Yeah, I was going to say different ashes every time. They don't bring them back, I don't believe, right?
Well, at one part they did. The first time
really?
he went was 1992. He went up as part of the personal effects of a guy named James Weatherby, I think was on the Space Shuttle Columbia.
Okay.
So as a part of his just personal space, he took up a little portion of ashes and brought them back. So that time they came back.
Yeah.
And then later in 1997, there's a company called Celestis, and their whole thing is space memorials.
Okay.
So their first trip out, called the Founders Flight, flew out from the Canary Islands or something like that in 1997, and it had ashes from Gene Roddenberry. It had Timothy Leary. I had to look him up, but he has an interesting history.
Tune out, turn in. Wait.
Yeah.
Turn up, tune in, turn out. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, that was his famous phrase. Yeah, very psychedelic drug guy. So he was on there. His ashes were on there, and apparently that one orbited the Earth for like 5 years, and then the rocket or whatever it was that was orbiting kind of disintegrated and burned up. So those are gone. But as we record this, the reservation deadline to send someone's ashes on the next trip passed just a few days ago, October 24th. So supposedly on 12/24 of 23 this year, there'll be another flight, and it's called the Enterprise flight.
That's the Star Trek theme.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
You didn't recognize it. No, I recognize it. The very, very cool thing about this one is on this flight will be like you can go online to Celestis, it's CELESTIS.com or something, Google
I would, except I'm worried about more sonic aberrations coming up.
So on the website, it'll give you a list of everybody who's on it, and there's quite a few on it right now for a mere $12,500. You too
is that all?
Can send a portion of your ashes to space, but this is supposed to be different than the 5-year plan. It's like in some sort of capsule that's supposed to go into deep space and basically
just keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on this flight are both Gene and is it Majel
Barrett?
Mr. and Mrs. Roddenberry will both be on this flight, as well as Nichelle Nichols.
Okay.
And James Doohan.
Yeah, I think his ashes have gone up before too.
That could have been. That seemed like I read that. And DeForest Kelley.
Wow.
So practically, a major part of the original Star Trek career. William Shatner was asked if he would like to go, and he's like, "No, I'll set this one out. I'll go with Jeff Bezos."
Yeah. William Shatner and George Takei and Takei, rhymes with toupee, as he reminded Bill Shatner. Yeah. And
Chekhov.
Yeah, Chekhov.
Is he still around? I don't know.
Koenig, Walter Koenig. The three of them are still the ones that are alive.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But so all those guys are on it, and so I guess really when I dug deeper into it, I realized that Mrs. Roddenberry
Majel Barrett.
Majel Barrett.
Yeah.
I thought she was going just as Mrs. Roddenberry, but apparently
No.
she was a character. I had no idea.
Oh, come on, Jay. Where you been?
I'm learning.
She's the voice of the computer.
She was the original
number
Nurse
one.
Chapel.
Well, she was the original number one in the pilot episode. Yeah, and which was The Cage, which had Christopher Pike, that episode.
Okay.
And then she goes and plays Nurse Chapel.
Uh-huh.
And then she was Deanna Troy's mother.
Right.
Yeah.
In Next Generation.
Next Generation.
Yeah, that's as much as I got.
I think that's as much as she's done. Now, but she's always been the, I don't know that she still is, but she's the voice of the computer working,
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And she played
not,
voices. She did voices of the character Nurse Chapel and the computer in the animated series, but she also did voices of other characters.
Okay. Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my learning curve for the day.
There you go.
Is her. So she's on it.
The more you know.
Right. So I guess, this is the first flight. There'll be more. So if you have a loved one you think would like to do that, then hey.
Or a member of some Star Trek episode or the cast of Star Trek if you want.
I read about the Roddenberrys, and then I saw, okay, Michelle Nichols and James Doohan. Then when I looked through the list.
It's a very small amount of ash that goes up, apparently. I thought they were like sending the whole urn full of ash up.
Probably
it's not.
not.
It's just like very small
representative.
amount. Yeah. Uh-huh. Just enough to say you went.
Right.
Yeah. Not that you could say, but anyway.
So I guess if you lose a limb or something, and you could
there you go.
Cremate it and send it up while you're still alive.
That's right.
Like for $12,500,
I'm sure. Could send it intact, and maybe if it goes deep space, it'll be found and cloned, and you'll come back.
There you go.
A race of Jays will come back.
Well, you could also send something called a mind file, which sent me into wild imagination.
Yeah,
so,
they've created one of those for William Shatner, I believe.
Okay,
that's a kind of an artificial personality.
It's like it may be it's like just a nickel shaped disc of information. Was kind of the way they described it. But
so that's not what I'm thinking about.
I don't think it's like from Ready Player 2 where they actually recreate the persona.
Okay.
But I just thought that was kind of neat, and especially that all the Star Trek people are the ones that have already passed are there.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Fascinating. And I learned something about Majel.
Majel Barrett, that's right.
You're saying Majel Barrett?
Barrett.
Was that her maiden name?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And her professional name.
Oh.
Yeah.
See? Look at me learning.
There you go.
All right. Well, it is close to Halloween. Actually, by the time this airs, Halloween will be past.
Yes.
And some of the things we're going to talk about.
Certain members of the Star Trek.
And the one thing I'm going to talk about, you're probably glad is past. So.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so we'll talk about Halloween after the break. And we're back, and we're talking Halloween. And Art
I'll do that every time we say something.
Okay,
scary.
good. Mm-hmm. Art is not dressed up today, nor am I in a Halloween costume.
But then again, it's not Halloween.
It is not Halloween yet, but will you dress up here? Does your workplace sponsor
some people do. Well, we don't sponsor a costume thing here in our workspace. Some people do, like people upstairs. They're usually very much into participating for Halloween, which is cool. We've done it down here some. We talked about trying to get a group thing together. We don't have that. Now, one thing that is sponsored, and I can't remember what department it's in, but we'll walk over and see it. They do a thing where every office or whatever is decorated. They've done it in themes of old horror movies before. Last year when we went and saw it. Very, very cool. They go all out and do it. And I can't remember the name of the department. Maybe we'll have gone by the time we next record, and I'll mention that. Shout out to them for doing it, because it's just very cool. Very cool.
Is it like anybody can go check it out? Like, could I go? I
guess you could, sure. I mean, they don't check cards or IDs or whatever.
As long as I pay for parking.
That's right. As long as you pay for parking, they're glad to have you go. Now, it seems like y'all dressed up at work before. I've seen pictures. Maybe
a little bit. I haven't been I dressed up last year, but I recycled a previous costume of a sweet potato, which was very simple. I wore, I think, brown pants and orange shirt.
I remember that, yes.
And I had a tag. In Mississippi, we live within an hour of Vardaman. I know you have a lot of, or at least you had a lot of Vardaman sweet potato ties here in at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got, so if you go to the grocery store now or locally during sweet potato season, which is generally fall, like I think the Sweet Potato Festival is this week and next week maybe.
Okay.
So we're right in the heart of it.
I should probably know that.
I'm sure you did. But they have these little tags that say like Mississippi farm raised or something like that, authentic. And so I have a couple of those that I've picked up when I've bought sweet potatoes.
Right.
So I'll just wear the tag, and I have to wear a name tag at work that indicates that I'm a pharmacist. I just changed my name from J. Reed to Sweet Tater.
Sweet Tater.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
So that was pretty weak, but I did have a friend, his pharmacy, he was very tall or is very tall. He's still very tall. And like me, didn't have a ton of hair. So he dressed like Gru, and all of his technicians dressed like Minions. Oh, so it was
They've done something
cool.
like that upstairs before. They did a Minions thing. I can't remember if it was last year. I think it may have been maybe a year before last year, but I think it was last year.
Yeah, it's been a while since at work this year, they've been talking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? They wanted me to be Eeyore. And I'm like, well, okay.
That's good.
But nobody came up with a costume, so we're not doing that.
And we have a party that we go to pretty much every year, Halloween, where we kind of hide away from the people that are trick-or-treating.
Oh, good.
We usually stay at our homes long enough to hand out candy to the younger set, and then we go. Although I do love doing that. I mean, it's fun. But it's a Halloween party. We have it, and we'll wear costumes to that. Not all of us, but some of us will. And so I'll try to put something together for that. My wife, where she works, they have had for several years, very competitive competitions. The different departments, and we'll find a theme and do that. They're doing Barbie this year,
of course.
And so there's one guy in there, and he's doing 80s Ken. Becky sent me a picture of that costume. They're actually doing it today.
Oh, okay.
And so but it's for a competition kind of thing, and I'm not sure what the other groups will be, but she'll usually sends me a picture. They all pose on the staircase, and so I'll see the pictures of them. But they really go all out and do, and they're well done and they're clever. So it's a tough competition, but everybody really seems to go all out for it. Like I said, Becky's going as Slumber Party Barbie. She got a wig in the mail yesterday, a blonde wig in the mail.
That's the way to wear your pajamas to work.
That's exactly was her plan. That's what she decided to do. So yeah, that'll be good. I can't remember what the other ones are, but each one of them is a different type of Barbie. And of course, based on the success of the movie, that's what's
I'm sure there's
prompting that.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of Barbies,
available.
I'm sure, this time. So I'm looking forward to see what they do. So we were trying to think of something to do. A group of us here, maybe do something, and just haven't come up with anything. Becky and them have done a safari before, and again, the guy in the group was like the safari hunter, and they were all. I think they did it where they were
with animals,
and I think their heads had like a trophy thing, on them. So they were, they wore a full costume,
right?
But they also had
like a black thing.
Yeah, had a black trophy mount thing behind their heads. So that was kind of neat.
That's
so
fun. We
cool.
haven't I guess I'm going to dress up, but unless something else happens, I'm going to be very like work specific. We have a poll by the time this airs. Nobody will care. Maybe anyway.
Yeah.
But we have a pole at the corner of the building, like to keep people from hitting the building as they round the drive-through, and people occasionally will still hit it.
Yeah.
And it's painted neon yellow, so I'm going to wear a neon yellow shirt on the left side, and just my name tag is going to say I hit the pole.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
It'll have to be. It's very location specific.
But what's funny to me is that it seems like now, and it's been like this a while. This is not a recent occurrence, but it does seem like there's so much more interest from adults in coming up with costumes and participating in Halloween, certainly than there was when my parents were adults. I can remember my parents going to a costume party once before. Now,
That's
I will
one
say,
more than I remember.
I will say it's certainly been the last 40 years because I have an aunt who loves to have Halloween parties, and she would always have a big Halloween party that was for adults. Okay. And so I can remember the first time Becky and I went, the Raiders of the Lost Ark had just come out, so I went as Indiana Jones. Always seems to be movies seem to be a real popular theme for adult. I'm going to call them adult parties. It sounds like something more than I mean, but adult Halloween parties. And again, we were out and in college by the time so it didn't happen when I was a child. I wasn't like competing with my parents for Halloween costumes when I was going out trick or treating.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I remember one party when I got to work when I was an adult.
Yeah.
Going as Mickey Mouse and I had the whole thing. My parents though I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
And even as I don't remember Melissa and I going to much of anything.
Yeah.
This one before I went to, I came up with the costume myself. I had a tuxedo already. I got some Mickey Mouse fabric and made my own bow tie. I found a really good set of ears that they were rubber. They pulled over your head.
Yeah.
And I got some clown shoes and then the white gloves that looked like Mickey gloves.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I came into this. It was in a barn. All the pharmacy folks from several different pharmacies, and I walked into this barn and there's people everywhere, and it wasn't because of me, but for whatever reason, as I walked in, it was sort of like the crowd parted.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked through all the way to the end of the barn. And at the end of the barn was this little girl, maybe 2 years old. And she looked up at me and thought Mickey Mouse is in my barn.
Oh, my gosh.
And she stuck to me like glue the whole night. It was so much fun. That's probably my greatest experience dressing up as a grown-up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, I did win. We had one. I went as Beetlejuice and did that. Our work, when I worked in Memphis, they would have a party, so I had a costume for that. And I just wore it to my aunt's party later. It was right before we moved down, and Becky dressed in a black wedding dress as Lydia from Beetlejuice. Okay, but I found like a white suit at a thrift store and just taped it off and got spray painted the stuff black, and then had makeup for it. And it was cool. And like I said, I won a prize for that. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I've seen on your Instagram, Facebook, you've dressed up quite a bit more than me. Or I've seen at least your head shots with different makeup and hats and stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not Halloween related though, Jay. Sometimes it's just being a character of some kind. I think there's a picture of me where I look like I've got a Safari Explorer helmet on and one of those Beersham pipes, like supposedly Sherlock Holmes kind of pipe, right?
Okay, yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, that's just
dressing up,
standing out in the backyard, probably sometime in June.
Well, did you dress up like when you took your kids? Did you dress up also?
No, I mean, no. I would get very much into making their Halloween costume. Like one of my favorites is when Will was little and we were just kind of carrying him around, and he had a green hoodie and we put that on him, and then I took a 2-liter Coke bottle and spray painted that silver, and then took his pacifier and got tubing and put it, so he was a frogman, and that was his scuba tank. And then Drew was a robot, and we had this kind of foam stuff at work that I cut and spray painted. It's probably both have lead poisoning now. It wasn't lead paint, but anyway, made him a robot suit out of that. Now they also got into it later. They would make their own. They did a lot of Harry Potter stuff. Yeah. So they would kind of come up with their own thing. I remember probably the last thing I remember Drew doing was Tommy Finster. But what was interesting is they trick-or-treated up to a certain age, and then there was kind of a time where they may dress up to pass out candy, and then they kind of stopped. But then they would go to parties, like in high school, either youth group parties at church or whatever, where they would dress up. So they got back into it again, and then in college, I think they both did a lot of dressing up.
Well, I guess now that you say youth party, where there was a stuff that like at church we had trunk or treat or whatever. And so occasionally I would help with that, and I dressed up like a coach.
Oh, okay.
A college coach. I dressed up like Hugh Freeze. He was the coach at Ole Miss at the time, and I had the little headphones on and the
have a burner phone, escort.
No, this was at church.
Oh, that's right.
This was at church.
Sorry, Mrs. Reed and all those who attend church.
Right, but we were
okay. Good, that didn't go off.
What's the name? I'm blanking now, but the hat that does
a visor.
A visor. All of our visors. I can't.
That's a visor. Yeah, I have that same kind of.
Use your words.
Yeah.
And then one of the fun part of that was there was a kid dressed up like Dan Mullen.
Oh my gosh!
So we got our picture made together.
That is too funny.
And I was trying to. We didn't do that much though as parents. We but I have my brother. There's a great picture of Rusty dressed up like the Lone Ranger, and his oldest Peyton is just, I don't know, she's little. I won't try to guess what her age was, but they had her up in a Indian costume.
So she was Tonto.
She was Tonto. He was Lone Ranger. It was really great, and they've done that a few times. Our neighbors, my parents' neighbors across the street, will give a shout out to the Arhuses. They do a family costume a lot. They were like the Incredibles one year.
Yeah, see, I love that.
And that
That'd
kind
be
of
great.
stuff. And when I was looking for stuff today for Geek of the Week, just type in Halloween costumes on Instagram. Of course, you get some weird ones, but there was a lot of those family photos, and you get the Heidi Klum.
I was going to say there are a
Kim
lot of
Kardashian,
a lot of celebrities
that
do. Paul Rudd does a lot of stuff with his kids, and I think Ryan Reynolds does as well. But yeah, Heidi Klum, you kind of look forward to see what she's doing every year. I mean, it's just so
she transforms.
Yeah, and not afraid to do anything. You know, she doesn't worry too much. I mean, beautiful woman, but she doesn't worry about being just gross. I mean, she's made some really, and of course, I guess she has access to as good a makeup artist, including special effects makeup artist that she needs to find. Yeah,
I think I've read she's spent like an entire day in makeup, basically, just to go to a party.
It's like what people spend to play a part in a role, and she's just doing it for, party a few hours or whatever. So it's interesting.
That's gonna be fun.
That's what. Like I said, I always think about it too late. I always go, I need to come up with this costume, try to do something topical or whatever, but. Anyway, so it's been fun. I still like to dress up some as, the scary characters. An easy one I did here at work a few years ago was the mad scientist from.
That's the picture I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one that I typically will use a lot. In fact, it's my Zoom image.
Okay.
I was a mad scientist, so I bought a lab coat. Just had an old suit on. I have some horn-rimmed glasses I was wearing at the time. But I was looking for like a fake hand to look like the project had gone wrong. I was doing an experiment like, the fly or something. And all I could find was a ginger root.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that ginger root became, but it had looked like a hand. It was kind of shaped like a hand. So I had a pipe and just a typical 50s scientist thing. And then, had the ginger root as my hand in the experiment that had gone wrong. That was and the advantage of that is, because often at work you're not allowed just to hang out and play Halloween all day.
Right, you have to work.
So if you have to work or go to a meeting, it's a pretty easy thing. You're just in a suit now. Okay, I could abandon the coat and the ginger root and be good.
Yeah. So. Not one year I did, as a kid, I remember I was a ghost and I got hot in the ghost costume. So halfway through the night, I took the ghost costume off and just wore my regular clothes. And they asked me who I was. I said I was the Bonning Man.
Okay.
So, because who dressed normal. And I saw, when I was Googling or going through the Instagram pictures today, they had a picture of it was an older kid dressed in kind of a suit and a trench coat.
Yeah.
And they asked him, what he was, and he said he was somebody from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so every kid in a Marvel costume, he was given a business card.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Asking them if they wanted to be
in the Avengers Initiative.
Right.
Yeah, that was very cool. Great idea.
Very clever.
Yeah, that was a good
clever.
idea. Maybe I should do that. That'd be a good one. Yeah, that'd be good.
So speaking of transforming, in Halloween, there's a movie that Rusty also suggested that we discuss. So
and you've watched it. I hadn't had a chance to watch it yet.
I have watched it, and I don't know whether I'm proud of it or not. But Rusty kind of said this is terrible, but it could become a cult classic just because.
I imagine it probably will.
Probably will. And, there actually is a 2 coming out. So the movie is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't seen the trailer of this.
Well, I think I saw a picture a while ago, and I thought it was a joke. Yeah. But it is not a joke.
We saw the picture like 6 months ago or what. I remember kind of talking about it, maybe not on the show.
Yeah, it came out in March, I think.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, so that's when we saw the picture.
Right, probably so. So that's about right. And
so how was it?
Where did you Pooh 2 coming.
No, really?
Yeah, next year.
Okay. Where did you see it?
I saw it on Peacock.
Oh, okay.
Streaming on Peacock right now.
Okay.
So if you have
do you subscribe to Peacock?
I have Peacock.
Okay.
Somehow. I don't know how.
I think you can get like an ad-supported version of Peacock for
different
free.
levels. Yeah.
And then you'll be going through, watch this, and you realize, this is the premium, part of the premium package, or at least the first tier package.
Yeah.
But I'm going to check it out and see if I've got it, because I know I have the Peacock app, and I'll see if I can't watch it there, I can go watch it at my mom's.
It's, your mom may not want to watch the movie.
No, I won't watch it with her.
Right.
Yeah. Mom, let's watch Winnie the Pooh for old time's sake.
Yeah, well, it's not old time. So it's here I'm with my words again. We already said it is no longer under copyright.
It's in public domain.
Public domain.
Yeah, the story of Winnie the Pooh. Now, obviously, you can't use the Disney copyrighted character likenesses, and it does not do that at all.
It does not do that at all.
I don't even know if you can use the A.A. Milne or whoever I think that's the author of the story. I don't know if you could use his drawings. Those may still be under copyright, but the text, the story itself, is in public domain.
Public domain. And in America, apparently in England, it's still got a few more years.
They've got a little bit longer and different copyright laws,
right?
And may have been renewed in England, but not here.
That's probably so. So at the beginning of the movie, there's some animation that is looks very sketch. Like a sketch. It wasn't sketchy, but it looked like a sketch, which kind of reminded me of some of the A.A. Milne stuff, but different. And the Pooh, we primarily see Pooh and Piglet in this one. Eeyore's mentioned, and when I was reading about it today, they say you can see Owl and Rabbit in one scene, but I did not see it. I have to go back and see that. But yeah, it's the idea of the movie is that Christopher Robin, was friends with them, and they also portray the characters not as sort of stuffed animals come to life, but hybrids. So almost like Sweet Tooth hybrids, where you've got a mix of human and animal that look like bears and pigs and owls. Okay, so you got this weird thing going on, and I guess that has something to do with the fact that they talk. So Robin is friends with them, and they make it out like it's a bad thing, like he feeds them and befriends them and spends all this time. Well, then he goes off to college and leaves them after he's promised, "I'll never leave you." Yeah. He leaves. Well, then the movie opens with him and his either fiance or wife coming in. He wants to introduce her to the characters, and they get up there, and and chaos ensues. And he's like, "This is the place." It says 100-acre wood on the sign. This is the place, but it looks very different. And then, spoiler alert, people die. Oh, yeah. So it's very graphic and gory and all that? Well, it turns into typical sort of slasher movie at that point. Yeah. Okay. And so how long a movie is it? About an hour and a half. Okay. I think so not a real investment in your time. Right. 124 is the running time, and plus the 3 minutes of ads you have to watch on Peacock before it starts. Okay, but you were able to watch it with no ads in between, No ads in between. Okay. No ads in between. That's not a bad deal, I don't think. Yeah, so hour and a half of my life. I like the premise of it. I mean, the idea, because basically the idea is that Christopher Robin left. They had a hard winter, couldn't eat. They went feral and had to do whatever it took to eat. And then, of course, And where was it produced? Where was the movie made? I'm not sure. Okay, but it's an English language movie. It's English language, and most of the. It was kind of funny. Most of the characters had British accents. Okay, except for one guy at the end who sounded like he was from Texas. That's wild. He was saying y'all and very, very Southern accent in the midst of all the other Brits. So I thought, where did this guy come from? Okay. But the production value wasn't terrible. Yeah. It could be better. If you look at the critical reviews of it, you'll see that they're not very high. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to have to watch that this weekend. They're definitely not high. We've been watching a lot of Halloween kind of stuff, and I like to watch the older stuff primarily. Right. In fact, kind of diverted from a little bit from what I've been watching and watched some Dark Shadows movies, which were made after the series run. They're not compilation movies, which I'd seen before. These were actually original movies, although they pull from some of the same plot. And the first one was okay. The second was terrible. But reminded me, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but Laura Parker, who played Angelique, the witch in Dark Shadows, died just a couple weeks ago. Oh, okay. As this is podcast a couple weeks ago. But the thing we did watch that was brand new is Fall of the House of Usher, which is people probably know about. It's a hugely popular series on Netflix. It's the 5th Mike Flanagan adaptation of literary works into this very contemporary, very graphic, very vile in some cases. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart to watch because there's a lot of bad language, there's a lot of graphic, violent stuff in it. Okay. But it's very, very well done, and it's a really unique twist on the story. In this case, the works of Edgar Allan Poe, as evidenced by the fall of House of Usher. In this case, there's not a old Gothic home that's falling. The family is the House of Usher. The Usher family is falling apart. They're unscrupulous, and they have made their fortune through
It's like OxyContin. It's an opioid-driven painkiller.
Another pharmacy. Sure.
Yeah, so it's taken the story that we've seen in documentary or in real life stories like painkillers that were done, and it's taken that and they made this form. But in addition, just being bad pharmaceutical people, they've actually made a deal with someone, and this is spoiler alert, but someone who is the devil, presumably, to kind of grant them all this success. But the cost is the family, and so the family falls. And it's 8 episodes, and each episode has a name of a different Poe work. You see what happens to each of these characters across this 8 story arc.
So each episode focuses on a different character?
Yes. Okay. Like there's the second episode is called The Mask of the Red Death, which is, if you're familiar with the story, the Poe story, it's a costume ball. And at the end of it, everybody dies because they've been exposed to a disease. I can't remember if it's smallpox or the bubonic plague or whatever, some type of plague thing, and they don't realize they have it. But the host has been giving them that thing. So it's a similar story, but it's all, very much updated to modern times. And there are just references to it or, certain similarities to the story that are enough to kind of bring it in there. They quote a lot of Poe. They quote both the Raven and Annabelle Lee. Huh. And, but they tie it all together and really, really works well. I mean,
so overall, it's House of Usher, but each episode draws in other aspects of other Poe stories.
Yeah. Huh. And so again, it's a real neat framing device to use that, and then to tell each of the demise of each character based on a different Poe work. So you've got Mask of Red Death, you've got Murders in the Rue Morgue, Telltale Heart, The Gold Bug is one. That was a story I was not familiar with. But and the Cask of Amontillado figures into it. Just all this kind of stuff. It's just really the Raven is really kind of also part of the overarching theme of the whole thing. Very well done. Again, not for everybody. Right. A lot of sex, a lot of violence, a lot of bad language. But again, the story is just really, really well told. Acting is brilliant.
Some of the actors that I saw just in the preview,
and he uses a lot of the same actors throughout his projects. The first thing I saw that he did was The Haunting of Hill House, which is a Shirley Jackson novel, and The Haunting, the movie that I love, the old '60s movie that was remade later, is from that story, and I just love that story. Man, that's a scary series. This one was not as scary. It did have some jump scares in it, but not as overall scary as The Haunting of Hill House. And he's done The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is a retelling of The Turning of the Screw.
Oh.
And I think that's Nathaniel Hawthorne.
It sounds like, yeah.
And then he's got Gerald's Game, which is a movie based on a Stephen King work. The others are series. And there's another one that's Midnight Mass, I think, and I've not seen that one. I'm not familiar with that one at all, but that's the other. This is supposed to be his final work, but just really, really, really cool stuff. But again, it's one of those I feel like I need to go watch something light and funny. And in fact, we would do that sometimes afterwards to do that. But we finished up last night.
So how many episodes of Clone Wars do I need to watch in order to get the full value?
You do have to watch the obligatory 20 episodes of Clone Wars to do it. You don't have to be familiar with Poe.
What I was really asking is, do you have to go back and read all those Poe stories?
You don't have to be familiar with Poe, but I mean, it's one of those where you go, oh, this is, and so you kind of have an idea what's coming, or you think you do. They'll turn it, but I don't know that it's necessary because it's such a unique story. It's, to me, what's cool about it is you might go back and go, let me go either read or reread the Poe stories. I did that with some of those, and like Murders in the Rue Morgue is much darker. I mean, Poe's, synonymous with dark, but it's much more violent than you think about for something that was, the 1800s, late 1800s, I think, when Poe was around. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I was not around.
I was not either. We're guys, but not of that certain age. That's right.
Yeah, we're closer to Celestis than we are to Poe.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, I think that just about covers. I did have one other little funny thing about Halloween.
We need something funny after that.
Yeah, after that, this will be the light. I thought it would be fun to send my kids a text this week, and I said, this would be a great week to tell me what sort of Halloween candy you would like in your
in
your Christmas stocking. Because the idea was, it's going to be on sale.
That's a great idea.
So tell me what, and they all said pumpkins.
Pumpkins.
Every single one of them said Reese's pumpkins.
Reese's pumpkins, not the candy corn pumpkins.
No, gosh, no. Although I love those, the mellow cream pumpkins. I do like those.
Yeah.
But no, they all wanted Reese's
pumpkins. See, the pumpkins are too, I don't know why this is, but the pumpkins are too much of that. I love candy corn. Pumpkins too much, although I can sit and eat 5 or 6 pieces of candy corn,
which would be
which is the equivalent amount of sugar. But
it's somehow, to me, the mellow cream pumpkins sort of melt.
Is that what that is?
That's what they call it.
That's what that stuff is. Okay.
Yeah. So you get that at Christmas too, in some shapes.
I will say this: I have noticed that stores like Walmart, for example, are getting rid of the Halloween candy or the Valentine's candy, whatever it is, the next day. They don't have it for sale or whatever. I don't know if they send it back to be repackaged by the manufacturers.
They probably put it in a Christmas bag.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. They just could do the same thing. And
you mean it's not in the 50% off basket?
We'll look November 1st and kind of see if it's around or not.
Well, I got to buy some today just so I can have it for any.
Yeah, we always tend to buy
kids.
a bag. We used to have to buy just all kinds of crazy amount of bags. So we had thousands of kids coming through. But now we don't, but we always manage to buy a bag just in case.
Oh, right.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to buy another bag just in case later because we've gone through that bag.
Exactly. Right. Well, we'll get some. So anyway, happy Halloween. And
happy Halloween.
You're supposed to go, ha, ha, ha.
Sorry, forgot my part.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of Guys of a Certain Age, and we'll see you next time.